What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be checking out a video suggested in the comments, and that is, if you live in freedom, thank the British Empire. That's obviously a very powerful title, a very powerful statement to make, but it kind of reminds me of the video we did a while back that was talking about all the amazing accomplishments and inventions that came out of the British Empire.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
It really was.
Like when you think about it, yeah, for such a small area to have brought about so many different things in the world.
Yeah,
so many
it's
different,
incredible.
Like, in so many different categories, not just technology, not just literature, not just whatever.
And as we've come to learn recently on our Patreon channel, where we're doing a journey into British and Irish music, we have learned a lot of the bands that we had heard of, like all of them seem to come out of the Isles, guys. It's pretty incredible, you know, just what has come out of the small area of land. And then on top of that, we checked out a video a while back showing all the countries that were invaded by the British Empire. And that was amazing as well. I mean, it was literally like, what was it like? The majority of the world, we'll just say.
Yeah, it was a huge percentage.
Obviously, you know, Britain has had a huge role in everything.
Yeah,
just
modern
about
society.
Everything, honestly, yeah.
The modern world.
And I don't really know, we haven't looked into the Magna Carta yet, for example, something we have on the list, something we want to check out. But obviously I understand that, you know, a lot of the freedoms we enjoy, you know, originated from that document and originated from Britain in general.
Yeah.
I also know that Britain did have a huge role in ending slavery in general. And they ended it much, much earlier. It was very short-lived there.
I didn't see that video, but I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, that'd be something interesting to look at as well. But guys, don't really know what to expect here. So we're going to jump in and check out If You Live in Freedom, Thank the British Empire.
Over the last 400 years, what power has done the most to spread the ideals of limited government, an independent judiciary, certain inalienable rights, and free markets? That power would be the British Empire. It was Britain that gave these ideals to the United States. It was the British Empire, the largest empire the world has ever known, which made these ideals global aspirations. It was the British Empire, along with America, that defended these ideals in two colossal world wars. Freedom was an Englishman's right, and wherever he went, he took that right with him, whether he was an English colonist in America, governing himself through a locally elected assembly, or an English adventurer like Sir Stamford Raffles, creating the free market city-state of Singapore, or an English officer like T.E. Lawrence, leading Arab tribesmen against the Turks.
Wait, so Britain in some way created Singapore?
Yeah, Singapore was founded by an Englishman.
Are you saying that or you're questioning it?
I'm questioning. That's what he made it sound like, but I don't know if I'm just misinterpreting.
And I do know that Hong Kong how is Hong Kong associated with the British, and then the British gave them independence for a certain period of time? It's like 50 years that China wasn't supposed to be able to get control of them or something, and that's been a big deal because they still got like some time on the clock, so to speak, and Hong Kong wants their independence or something. If anyone knows about that, I only know the very briefest understanding of that. So if anyone knows about that, let us know in the comments.
The British always thought of themselves as liberators, as bringers of freedom. The British believed the final and necessary justification of their empire was a moral one. The British kept the peace. They brought sound, honest administration. And they insisted that basic moral standards were honored. The British did not try to nation build in the way we think of it now. They were under no illusions about making Arabs or Afghans or Zulus into Englishmen. They were more than content to leave people alone, to let them be themselves, to govern them with the lightest possible hand. In American history, we remember this when we think of the British Empire's so-called benign neglect. We can see it throughout the history of the British Empire. Think about the vast territory of the Sudan. It was governed by 140 British civil servants. Even Gandhi praised the British Empire, paraphrasing Jefferson, saying that he believed that the best government was the government that governed least, and that he found that the British Empire guaranteed his freedom and governed him least of all.
I
agree
love
with that assessment.
Yes, I agree with that assessment 100%.
Less government interference, the better, in my opinion.
I think that's where I draw the line with government. Is it protecting the greater good as a whole without really infringing upon the individu's rights, if that makes sense?
Personal rights that aren't kind of live and let live. If you're not hurting someone else, then who cares?
Yes, exactly.
In the defense of freedom, the empire drew moral lines. No power did more to abolish slavery and the slave trade in the modern world
What to look into
than
that
did the
together.
British Empire. The British Treasury spent enormous sums to liberate slaves and compensate slave owners in the Caribbean. The Royal Navy had as a primary duty the eradication of the slave trade.
Hold on. So they were compensating the slave owners. Is that to basically pay them to free the slaves? Is that what they were doing?
Like an incentive to give it up, I guess.
Basically like, hey, we're going to free these slaves. So we're going to... Were they purchasing the slaves and then basically freeing them after their purchase?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember hearing about that exactly, that they paid the slave owners in the Caribbean. Was it only the Caribbean, or were there other areas they were actually doing that as well?
Yeah.
And in fact, abolishing the slave trade became a major factor driving the expansion of the British Empire.
Hold on. So what exactly are all the... I mean... I start to say that's the British Empire. But it's not. British Empire was much larger than that. Mm-hmm. So what exactly are we looking? Are we still looking at something to do with slavery here? But that Canada, like
the orange.
I'm not exactly sure what the orange part is. Yeah, it doesn't even make sense because it doesn't even have.
It was where they had government like. Servants, right? Civil servants from the...
Is that what this is? That was exactly what we're looking at?
That's why they originally showed an orange. Wasn't it Sudan?
Yeah.
They said had 147.
Yeah, that's true. But I just noticed that, Britain itself is not lit up with orange, so I'm not 100% sure.
The British enforced a Pax Britannica, putting down pirates, taming headhunters, and keeping the peace between previously warring tribes and religions. While respecting and often ruling through local leaders, the British still insisted on certain Judeo-Christian moral standards. They were not, in that respect, multiculturalists. They had a firm sense of right and wrong. When Sir Charles Napier was confronted by the practice of suttee, widow burning, in India, he told the Brahmin priests involved that he understood it was their custom. But the British had a custom too. They hanged men who burned women alive, and their goods were confiscated. So if the Brahmins insisted on continuing their tradition of widow burning, then he would insist on following his British tradition of hanging the murderers of widows.
Oh, wow. Widow burning? Like...
That sounds very cruel and messed up.
What? Am I understanding what that... practice was?
If I'm assuming it's if a woman is married to a man and they somehow die or get
the man?
Yeah, if the man gets killed in war or is sick and dies, then a woman can't just be single and live her single widow life, I guess.
Holy, are you serious? Where was this at? India?
I didn't know.
Okay, guys. I've never heard of widow burning. That is if I'm understanding what that is crazy practice. And I think that is something that no matter where you're at, that should not be tolerated. I'm guessing today it's not, but I've got to go back real quick and see what that is again. Let's see. Here we go.
Of suttee, widow burning, in India.
Suttee.
In India.
The Brahmin priests involved that he understood it was their custom. But the British had a custom too. They hanged men who burned women alive, and their goods were confiscated. So if the Brahmins insisted on continuing their tradition of widow burning, then he would insist on following his British tradition of hanging the murderers of widows.
That's crazy.
Widow burning in India soon ceased.
I bet.
But we don't have to get far into history.
So all it took was threatening them. Hey, we're going to do to you exactly what you've been doing to these innocent women.
The golden rule.
Yeah, really, that'll get you to stop. Well, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to be burned alive. Okay, I know that times were different, but I can never understand.
It's what you grow up in. It's the customs that you are born into.
Of course.
And if you literally just never question it and never think anything about it, this might be wrong.
Of course, but let's think about this. We can say, okay, that was a custom and they're just used to it and they didn't know any better or whatever. But it's think about this: an innocent person. Her husband is gone for whatever reason, war or just old age or whatever it is. She didn't do anything, and you're just going to burn her alive?
But again, yes, from our perspective, our modern understanding of the moral compass, yes. But when you live
Lindsay,
in a society,
you don't have to tell me that. I understand it.
You're baffled as to how anyone could think that.
No, I'm coming at it from perspective that is just incredible that people would have that mindset. I understand why people do. They're just you're ingrained in your culture, whatever culture that was, and there were
never questioned.
Right, and there were a ton of practices like that throughout history that just we would look at now. It's just really crazy, and that is why you can't judge a previous group of people with modern values and belief systems because it was just different. But that doesn't mean that I can't stop for a second and be like, whoa.
How did that ever come about?
How in the world? It just boggles my mind. There was a time where people would think this innocent person, her husband dies, instead of consoling them, we're going to throw them in a fire? It's just hard to imagine.
I'm glad we're kind of moving away from that.
Yeah, that's just
most areas.
That is just another big example. I'm sure, obviously, that has had a huge ramifications in India in this case. Imagine if the British hadn't come in and stopped that practice at that point, would it still be going on? I mean, if no one had stopped it, it probably would have continued.
To question it, yeah.
You have somebody or some group of people, some country has to introduce a change in order for the lineage of something to stop. Therefore, that right there is just one good example of how Britain brought this freedom to widows in India. That's just one example here, and that's amazing. That's obviously an incredible thing. Wow.
The abolition of slavery and widow burning defined the British Empire on the side of moral right and freedom. We can think of events within our own lifetimes or those of our parents and grandparents. When we think of the two deadliest threats to freedom in the 20th century, we generally think of communism and Nazism. But how many remember that in 1940, after the Hitler-Stalin Pact and after the fall of France, one power, the British Empire, stood alone in mortal combat against the combined tyrannies of the world?
I learned that recently.
Even where the British have merited criticism, as in Ireland, there is more to the imperial story. During negotiations to create the Irish Republic, for instance, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, who could speak Welsh, reminded the Irish nationalist and Gaelic extremist Eamon de Valera that the Celts never had a word for republic. It was an idea given to them by the English. This is our own history, too. If you love America, you should also love the power that gave us our sense of inalienable rights, rights traceable back to Magna Carta. It all started in America with the British Empire, a great liberty-loving empire. It is the empire's legacy, the English-speaking world, that remains the great global guardian of freedom today. I'm H.W. Crocker for Prager University.
Wow.
That's pretty cool to think about.
That was a powerful 5 minutes and change video.
It did seem longer than that.
It did. I was in this and I was like, wow.
They covered a lot in 5 minutes.
They did.
But to be honest, I wish I had gone into more detail.
Yeah, but definitely have a few ideas of things that, Magna Carta, for example, is something that's been on our list, but I needed a reminder. It's definitely something we should check out soon. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Magna Carta, I know it was something that was briefly touched on in school, like a lot of things. But again, You know, if you are a kid that's not as interested in history at the time, you're not going to remember that stuff that well.
Yeah.
You know, I know what it is, but I've never really, you know, I can't remember like what it says exactly and the story behind it, for example. Can you? Really?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's what, 1215. Wow. That's incredible. You know, and I don't really know what the Magna Carta came out of, who created it or whatnot. You know, I just know the general gist of what it is. So that's definitely something we should check out soon. And obviously, I'd like to look into that story of widow burning. Like, that's incredible. But this just makes me want to look at more of the individual events that took place with the British Empire throughout history from, like, for example, the Magna Carta, these big events. These are some of the things that I've been wanting to explore on this channel for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you have some of these big events in mind, like, okay, the Magna Carta, you know, ending slavery, you know, or ending widow burning, or being a part of all these different big events, I'd love to learn about these guys. You know, so anything that has to do with freedom or, you know, generally that type of thing, we would love to look at. So if you have those different events in mind, let us know. But one thing I wanted to ask you when I was seeing this, I didn't want to stop at that point. Yeah. Now that you remember when we did the European quiz, European countries quiz, can you look at these countries now and have a much better idea of where they're located?
Maybe a tiny bit.
But I know you can. There's no doubt in my mind.
I mean, I would do better now than I would have prior to taking that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I thought so. I thought so. That was fun, guys. And by the way, that's something else. If you have any other ideas for quizzes we should take,
oh yeah,
we are quiz fanatics.
Yeah, we love.
I was that weird kid that like I didn't like school. I did not like school, but I absolutely love quizzes. Well, I don't want to say I didn't like school. I like, okay, for example, in school, I was not the history person that just loved history. I think it's pretty rare. Yeah, it is. They don't make history, at least back when I was in school, they didn't make history fascinating. It was like, here's what happened. Memorize these days. And it's like, that's not going to get some. Yeah. I mean, like, I think there are some kids that just like, it's just their subject. They just love history.
Yeah.
But I think most kids, that's not their subject. And you come to most people that enjoy history as an adult, they come to it later on. And I'm like that. You know, being on this journey has definitely made me very interested in things like this, learning about the history. You know, and obviously British history and Irish history are both tied to America in large ways.
Yeah.
You know, British because of kind of the founding and the founding documents, the founding fathers and all this, and also ancestry. But Ireland specifically, mainly ancestry. You know, a lot of people come over from Ireland at different points in time. But I was never the history buff, but I love history now. At least the history I've been learning here. I was so good at math. I was a mathaholic. I did really good in that, and I was excellent in writing. Writing was my thing. All my teachers always loved my writing. I was just good at creative writing.
Horse riding or no?
What? Horse riding, yeah, horse riding.
Writing.
Oh, yes, writing.
I was making a joke.
I know you were.
Because we're Americans and we don't pronounce our T's. So.
Ratting.
Ratting.
Yeah. Rotten. Rotten. I'm going to go rotten. Anyways, guys. But yeah, so I definitely like history much more than I did now. Something else this is kind of off topic, but something else I've learned on this journey so far is like, it took me seeing the great cathedrals that I've seen so far, these wonderful buildings, this old architecture, to really realize how much I actually love architecture in general. It's something that I did not know before this. I always love beautiful places. I love beautifying things like with landscapes and whatnot, but I never really knew how much I appreciated architecture. So there's definitely a lot, I guess what I'm saying is that there's definitely a lot of new things that I found out about myself, things that I enjoyed that I didn't even know before I started this journey. And so that's something I'm very appreciative of this journey for. One of the many things. That's just one of many. But yeah, guys, I think I'm rambling. Imagine that. Do I ever ramble? I don't ever ramble, do I? Have I ever rambled once in my life? Do I seriously? Do I ever talk?
Do you ever stop talking is the more correct question. Oh my gosh, I swear, you guys, I will be downstairs. He will be up here. We have very thin walls and noise travels. He will be up here talking to himself.
You think I'm talking to myself?
If no one's around, he will talk to himself.
No, I'm talking to someone.
Literally, between him and Sophia, I never get a quiet moment.
No, I might be on
He's talking in one ear, she's talking in the other.
I am not talking. I'm probably talking on the phone, or I'm out the window talking to the cat outside or something like that. No, but it's like I don't know. It's interesting because I guess I'm talkative, but it's interesting. Like I'm not really talkative in new situations. Really, think about it. I'm really not. Like I'm talkative when I get to know someone, and when I have something useful to say. But with you, I've known you for so long that even when I don't have anything useful to say, I just share it anyway.
You guys too, apparently.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go on and on.
He's comfortable with you now.
That's right. I'm just comfortable with you. You got to deal with it, huh? Anyways, guys, I'm not going to talk your ear off anymore, so I think we'll let you go. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions. And please, smack down, touch, rub that subscribe button and help me wake my wife up because she seems to be asleep over here. We don't get enough sleep. We need to sleep better. Yes. We are punishing ourselves. We're glutton for punishment, I suppose. But anyways, guys, enough rambling. Thank you so much. See you next time. Peace.
Bye.